Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I am keeping it a little quiet. You may hear, if you hear a hair dryer in the background, that's because there's a hair dryer in the background. One thing I forgot to mention in yesterday's video, I was telling you how all these people have lied about me and all this stuff, and they were talking about my in regard to my link to holdings, and I was explaining that I hold more SPVs on the Link2 platform than most people listening to me. But I forgot to mention one of my, I guess it's my largest holding, which is Link2 shares themselves. So my largest are Link2, Polysign, Ripple, Circle, and Uphold. Those are my largest ones. But so I have plenty to lose, just like everybody, but I personally am not concerned about losing the value or losing my assets. That's never been something I've been worried about personally. Still not. But anyway, just wanted to make everybody, that's the only thing I can say. I can't say anything else right now. Okay, I wanted to show you this. This is Kathy Wood. Now, she's always talking about Bitcoin, but it applies, what she's saying applies to the whole market.
I want to start right with Bitcoin and what you see as the outlook for Bitcoin's price. In recent weeks, you've come out and said $1.5 million per Bitcoin by the year 2030. Since then, though, we've seen quite a few outflows. We've seen a lot of volatility. Shonali just went through that. Is that still your view? 1.5 million by 2030?
Yes, it is our view. I think right now we're in a risk-off period generally. And if you've been watching Bitcoin, it's almost been a leader in terms of risk on, risk off. So I think that's what we're seeing. If you look at our on-chain analytics, what you will see is that we are in the middle of, we're a little bit more than halfway through a 4-year cycle. We think we're still in a bull market. And we believe that the deregulation that we're seeing here in the United States is going to be very important to institutions moving into this new asset class. Asset allocators have to have a point of view on this new asset class. And we think by putting it in portfolios, risk-adjusted returns for the entire portfolio will go up.
One question I have to the point you're making here on where the risk appetite stands around Bitcoin versus other asset classes, there has been a serious dip in markets, Kathy. If you had to choose where you would buy the dip the most, would it be in Bitcoin, Tesla, or NVIDIA?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not interested in all the stock stuff. Now, here's another interesting take. This is from Lark Davis, who he's a Bitcoin guy, but he's not one of the jerk Bitcoin people.
Sina 21st shared this model, Bitcoin cycle model. Said, do you think Bitcoin is lagging the cycle? Well, it's actually trading at almost exactly the price the prior cycles are suggested via our Bitcoin cycle model being published for the first time. Now, it's very interesting. So if you look at their cycle model prediction, essentially what they're predicting is a top for Bitcoin sometime later this year, probably around 250K, which I know, guys, I'm here too. I get it. I understand the sentiment. I see your comments. I know people are pissed off. I know people are angry, depressed, have no belief in anything that's going on in the markets anymore. I get it. It's like everybody's forgot that the United States is going to buy hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin, and that all these companies are buying Bitcoin, and BlackRock's buying Bitcoin, and trillions of dollars stablecoins are going to come on chain and all this stuff. And I know none of this shit happens immediately overnight, but it's all coming. Short term, we got to deal with all the bullshit that's going on in the macro markets around tariffs and stuff like that. But the big picture, the long-term picture, hasn't really changed that much for Bitcoin.
For XRP in my book. Now, this is an interesting clip from Paul Barron I wanted to play for you, and then I'm going to play a couple of things. Many of you have not been around as long as some of us. and I'll tie all this in.
If you look at what's happening in Capitol Hill within the Trump administration, Trump signs an executive order now to modernize the Treasury payment system. This is a big deal because this affects SWIFT directly. And SWIFT, of course, is used by all the G10 nations as a standard that's used to move money around the world. And if this is actually done, we could see an unbelievable impact on maybe one of the biggest platforms out there, and that's going to be Ripple and XRP. Here's a clip that goes a little bit more into this. Take a look.
I have an executive order for your attention relating actually to government payments. Historically, checks issued by the Treasury are, I believe, 14 times more likely to become the subject of fraud than electronic transfer payments. This is an executive order that's going to push the Treasury Department to modernize its payment system to ensure that where possible they're using electronic methods of payment as opposed to paper checks in order to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse in the government, which is obviously an endeavor that we've been pursuing in numerous aspects of government under your leadership.
It's basically modernization of equipment and methods. It's something that should have been done 25, 30 years ago.
Obviously an outdated system, which makes it apparently 14 times more likely to see fraud within that system. This is a clear move, I think, to one, revolutionize how payments are done. This will happen on the blockchain, and most likely it's going to happen with someone like Ripple, who has a lot of experience in this. So be on the lookout for what we could see coming down the pipeline. I think this is just the beginning, guys. We're going to see a lot more of this coming in from the SEC, from the administration, especially as we start to get regulatory alignment coming out of Congress. So
this is the big picture stuff, folks. Now, this is Chris Larson back in, I think, 2019-ish.
Rather than being an internet system. So we need that internet of value to be developed. And that's what we spend our time working on, is a replacement for SWIFT and correspondent banking. How do you get all of the payment providers, all of the wallets onto ILP? And then how do you use XRP as on-demand liquidity so that all of these providers don't have to keep balances all over the world because the process is so inefficient. We think that's the winning kind of killer app. And then I think last group talked about a Cambrian explosion. Yeah. Then you get that Cambrian explosion.
By the way, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, we're going to, in DAIXRP.com, if you want to join, that's the Patreon. Go to DAIXRP.com. If you want to join through YouTube, you click right below this video, click the join button. You get the extended videos with no advertising. And in there today, I'm going to show you what I find to be a very interesting theory about Brad Garlinghouse that I saw this morning. And I kind of think that it's probably right on point. You won't want to miss that. Speaking of Brad Garlinghouse, so this is him from back in maybe 2019-ish.
I think what we're doing and executing on a day-by-day basis is in fact taking over SWIFT, in that we've now signed up well over 100 banks. Some of the largest SWIFT-enabled banks in the world are now using Ripple's technology. Just last week we saw a remittance company who's using Ripple's technology. They reduced the price per transaction to their consumers from $20 per transaction to $2 per transaction, and they saw an 800% increase in usage overnight. That's the type of dynamic that SWIFT isn't able to support that we're able to address right now.
One of the former board members of SWIFT, a gentleman, Marcus Treacher, joined our team to run all of customer success. And, this was, a former board member from SWIFT coming over and saying, hey, we don't think SWIFT's going to be necessarily a solution to really unlocking this internet of value. These are, marks along the journey.
I didn't mean to go into all that. Okay, here's Anders L. Chris Larson, one of the co-founders of Ripple, confirmed in an interview from February 2017. This is a video I don't remember ever seeing this video.
The institutions like the Bank for International Settlements, right? They spend a lot of time thinking about settlement risk and trying to contain it. Could institutions like that be helpful to you in helping adoption happen faster?
BIS could be. We've met with them. They seem more of a policy arm. So as far as standard settings, yes. So definitely we are cognizant that central banks will play a role. You're seeing a lot of really cool things coming out of the Bank of England. The Bank of Japan now has gotten very, I think, actually. Frankly, I think Japan is really leaping ahead as far as innovation in this category. Fed has actually been pretty constructive. They have a lot of people working on, where these technologies mean. So there's a lot of these international bodies and central banks that are part of the mix, which I think just from a credibility standpoint, it kind of gives it a little bit of seal of approval. It's not like you have separate regulators, enforcement people, but it helps. It helps get the banks comfortable and the tech companies comfortable.
Okay, a lot of stuff today. See, this is Raoul Paul. He keeps pointing to this M2, folks, and basically saying that the M2, the crypto and Bitcoin and all that lags M2, and it looks like Crypto Insight UK agrees with him. We're close, gang. The waiting game is almost over. 10-week lead. 10-week lead is my preferred. Let's see what else he said here. But this guy says prefers a 12-week lead. Either way, it's close. Then we've got this 5,000. This is big picture stuff. 5,000 plus banks have just gotten the green light to enter crypto. FDIC just flipped the switch. Banks now dive into digital assets with no prior approval needed. This isn't just a policy tweak. It's a massive U-turn from cautious stance of the last 3 years, 4 years, really, more than that even. With both FDIC and OCC in sync, the U.S. is fast-tracking crypto in the core of the financial system, from custody to stablecoins to blockchain ops. Banks are now free to build. FDIC and OCC are cooking up a whole new crypto playbook as America about to lead the next wave of crypto finance. And then I'll finish here before we go in the group. eGreg Crypto, he's a chart guy, and he still is targeting $27. And I hope that he's 1,000% right. But even if he's 75% right, it is on like Donkey Kong. So we're in for an interesting few months ahead. Now, reminder, in DAI-XRP, .com, I'm going to talk about a very interesting Brad Garlinghouse theory I saw someone float, and I think they're right over the target. You're going to find this really interesting. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that even though I told my 12-year-old to turn his phone off while I did this video, he didn't listen. He decided to turn it down. I can hear him in the background. Maybe you can. They don't always listen. Here we go.